Is the video starting? I'll obviously edit out the beginning of that. There we go. And we have to, let's go back here real quick. Here we go. Start recording. And 3, 2, 1. Hey Jennifer, how's it going?
I'm doing good, John. How are you?
I am living the dream, doing well.
That's awesome. I love it.
Absolutely. So yeah, Jennifer Skippergosh, got you in the house finally.
Yes, absolutely. I'm excited to be here.
Absolutely. So let's tell everyone, for those people who don't know, who are you?
I'm Jennifer Skippergosh. I am a real estate agent with New Chapter Real Estate in Cherville, soon to be opening up a second location in Valparaiso.
Awesome, that's
Yeah.
exciting. I saw that on Facebook, I think yesterday, right?
Yeah, Chapter 2.
There we go, awesome. Where at
Yeah.
Valpo is it going to be?
It's going to be right in downtown Valpo, I believe, right off of Lincoln.
Oh, perfect, okay,
Yeah.
awesome.
I'm really excited.
Yeah, absolutely.
Jess and Joan do amazing things, so it's going to be great.
Awesome,
Mhm.
absolutely. So yeah, so you're a real estate agent. We've obviously been working together for for quite some time now.
Yeah.
We've known each other for a while as well too.
Absolutely.
And the reason why I brought you on is I think you have a very interesting story, right? To say the least, right?
Yeah, something like that.
Absolutely. So you definitely have definitely one of those people that I think is super relatable. And not simply in the realms of real estate, right? I just think as a person in general, right? You have a really good and impactful story. And I think anyone that's struggling with, maybe going through some hard times could relate to, what you've been through, and maybe hopefully get some inspiration out of today, right?
Absolutely. I'm always an open book. I am a pretty private person in general, but at the end of the day, if somebody ever has questions or if somebody is struggling and I see that, I'm always here to help. I'm here, period. I'm always open to being able to help other agents or people just in general.
Yeah.
It brings me happiness.
Absolutely. No, 100%. So, well, let's talk about your story, because that's what we're here for today. So I know you were talking about a couple of different phases of life, right? And there's a couple of different things that you've gone through throughout your life experience. So let's start at the beginning with upbringing and all the stuff we're talking about. So
Sure.
let's roll through that.
Okay, so I had, most people, we have troubled childhoods. So I had, a pretty rough childhood. It was not all rainbows and sunshine. And I struggled a lot with finding myself, where I belonged, who I was. And it was very difficult. I was never really accepted even into my own family. And even being biracial, it was hard to even find where I belonged, out in the world too. Even going to school, it was hard. Going onto the blocks, it was hard. And so it was a huge struggle. And so it led to a lot of, misbehavior. And then as I got older, it came out more and more. And I obviously got into some trouble. And then my mom got married and we moved. And we moved to a pretty nice area. And this is in Illinois, I was born and raised in Illinois and stuff.
Sure.
And then went to high school and met somebody, got pregnant, got married. That in families, you get pregnant and you kind of get forced into that situation. And went through a terrible marriage. My son literally saved my life though. He was my blessing.
Right.
He's my guardian angel, love of my life. That child was But it was a terrible marriage. Still went through high school though. Graduated with academic honors, and then finally, I was granted a divorce, and it was really hard to get a divorce. I had saved up so much money, and then he contested it. And then I had to go to the Legal Aid Foundation of Chicago to try to get their help to actually get the divorce. And then it was really hard to do that because I wasn't trying to air out all my dirty laundry in my marriage, and I ended up having to do that in order to get their help. So that was really hard. But because of that, and because of everything I struggled with in that marriage, my old guidance counselor and social worker at the high school, they're the ones that actually had me become more comfortable with the story and being able to open up, because it's not just like in the inner city where things like what was happening to me was happening, like it was out in the suburbs too.
Right.
Yeah, so they had me come in and talk to like incoming freshmen and do like little seminars, and that really helped me, through it, like mentally.
Right.
When I went into college, and I threw myself into my studies because I love school. I love learning. I love knowledge. Everything that I possibly can. Like I just want to soak it all in.
Right.
And so I ended up doing a double business major, a minor in psych. And about 6 to 7 months before I was supposed to graduate, I was diagnosed with a progressive stage 3 cervical and ovarian cancer. And I had to immediately drop out and start treatments. And and this was literally within, the divorce, school, my cancer, plus working and taking care of my child, because I didn't really receive help. Like once I got the divorce, he left.
Right.
He was gone, and he hasn't been back since. And so it was me just trying to take care of everything. And it was really difficult, because even the treatment was really difficult. Going through like even my relationship like with my mom and her husband, and then things that were going on with my sister too, and my brother at the time, and still finding myself, because at this point I still haven't even had time to find out who Jennifer is.
Right.
Like I've just been thrown into all these situations.
Right.
Like chosen too.
True.
Nothing was just like, hey, a gun pointed to my head. Like I made the choices, like, and I dealt with the consequences.
Right.
So at the end of the day, I just rolled with it, and that's just what I kept on doing. And then I finally, after about a couple years of that, I moved down to Florida for a summer and had a stroke. Had to come back and live with my mom. And then after that, they wanted to move to Vegas. And it was great. It was going to be like a fresh start for me and Adrian, so I moved out to Vegas. And after about like 3.5 years of being out there, that's when I met Nathaniel's dad, my youngest.
Okay.
And right before I was about like literally 13 days before I was supposed to move back here, I found out that I was pregnant.
Oh no.
And I didn't believe it. Because I wasn't supposed to be able to have any more babies. Like I went through the treatments and I refused the hysterectomy just because I was a child, like when I had a child.
Right.
Like so I still wanted that option. As an adult, like as a woman. And so like I didn't believe anybody. Like I took tests 3 different times at hospitals. Like so finally it sunk in literally 13 days, house sold, house packed, plane tickets bought, and so I finally I got it, and I stayed out in Vegas for a year after I had them, and then I moved back up here. It was like I wanted my kids to be in a better environment, and I didn't want to go back to Chicago.
Right.
So I moved to Indiana, and within 6 weeks I got my real estate license. I did the accelerated course, and I got my license in Indiana, and been doing it since. Like I love numbers, and it's gonna sound super cliche, like given the industry, but like seriously, helping people brings me like profound, genuine happiness in my heart.
Right.
So it's not just helping list a house or helping a buyer get into the house. Like I have very niched markets on how I help people. Like, so from the REOs to the foreclosures to the short sales to my investors, like I have a very, very niched like section that I work with.
Right.
Because those are people that I want to genuinely like listen, like I know that this is tough right now, but I am here to help you.
Right.
I know it might be embarrassing, and you don't even want to tell your family about it, but if you don't let me help you, it's only gonna get worse.
Right, of course.
And like with my investors, like I know what they're looking for. You know, and I love that I can be myself, like my personality, like my words and everything, and I don't have to watch anything. You know, because they appreciate my mind, they appreciate my intellect, and I like that.
Yeah.
And I like being able to give them what they want.
Right, of course. Well, I think it kind of all goes, well, that was a lot right there, right? all in one. So I appreciate you sharing, the whole, the whole segment there of your story. That was, definitely appreciate you being open about a lot of that stuff. We'll kind of go through, I guess, some questions for you on a couple of those different things, right? I think that, sometimes there's, a lot of people, and everyone's situation is different, right? But I feel like we all go through a lot of the same emotions, right? Obviously, hearing your story, thinking back to like, whatever the worst thing that happened in my life, I was like, it doesn't even compare to anything that has happened, right?
Everybody's life is unique to each other, like to themselves, so.
Right, but everyone has like similar emotions, right? And so, for somebody that is out there that's listening to this, that, might be struggling with finding where they belong, right? How were you able to, discover healthy ways to, kind of scratch that itch that you might have of figuring, because everyone wants to belong somewhere,
Absolutely.
right? I think that's something that's natural, and that's something that we need to do as humans. We need to have that connection, right? But especially someone who, might feel like they're in a position where, they're not in the in crowd or whatever, right?
Yeah.
And so now they're looking for validation other places, and maybe they're starting down that path, right? Or they know somebody who's starting down that path, right? What are some ways that you were able to find that that community in a healthy way?
Through a lot of unhealthy ways first. And I just say that because mentally it's always a struggle. Because when you don't have anybody and you don't have anything, like I'm a big reader, and I'm a big proponent for, going through the cycles. Like you can ask, even like my mom, I always have to do things the hard way because I have to figure it out.
Right.
Like I have the process of elimination for everything for me in my life.
Right.
But at the end of the day, I know who I am, and I love being a mother. And being a mother is like one of the greatest joys of my life. And it wasn't even like a second like thought or guess, like when I found out I was pregnant, like so young, like I was gonna be a mom. Period. Like there was nothing else. Like I was going to figure that out.
Right.
And I did. And I struggled a lot, but I figured it out. And I've been a single mom for 90% of his life, and he's 19 now. And then I have a 7-year-old, and I'm pretty much just a single mom to him too, because his dad is just, he comes in and out like whenever he can.
Right.
But I don't rely on anybody else. And that is kind of like just what I do. I don't really know how to, it's not really healthy because I just do what I do.
Right.
I know what I like, I know who I am, I know who I am not, and that's kind of, it's just figuring it out. Like I know my heart, I know my mind,
Right.
And once I figured that out, and I did, like, therapy's great.
Mm-hmm.
Like, we all have good days and we all have bad days. We all make bad choices and we all make bad decisions, but I will own up to mine.
Oh yeah, of course.
You know, like, trust me, like, I'm not perfect. Like, I definitely make bad choices, but I'm making those choices. And if I'm making those choices, there's a reason for them.
Right, of course. Well, I think you hit the nail on the head too. You know, there's seeking professional help, right? There's a lot of, you know, especially with the advancement of modern technology, there's a lot of cheaper ways to get access to the help and support that someone might need, right?
Absolutely.
And also too, you know, like we said, you had to, you know, bear the weight of a lot of this on your own, and so your standards for the people that you surround yourself with or that you choose to be involved with are higher because of the fact that you've already been through this. You're not dependent upon anybody, right?
Yeah.
And I don't think that's necessarily a bad thing. I know a lot of people that are in, you know, a similar position where maybe they're a single parent, right, or they've been, you know, single for so long that, you know, their walls are up and their standards are high or whatever it is, right? And I don't think that's a bad thing, because I think that
It's not.
you're able to push away a lot of the, you know, the riffraff that comes through it for sure.
Well, I'm a pool player, so I'm around it all the time.
Oh, yeah, 100%.
So, like, it's my sandbox. But no, absolutely, because I have amazing people. And honestly, I have to say this year is probably the first year that I have actually opened myself up to understanding that more people care about me, and I have to allow that in. Because I don't. Like, I just don't. Like, I do. I have mountains of walls built up, and that's just because I'm a workaholic, and I have my children. Like, I don't even allow people at my house because that's my children's home.
Right.
That is where they're safe. That is where they're secure. Like, they can run wild and carefree, and I don't want them to ever feel like, oh, people are coming over after me on my best behavior. Like, child, like, that is your home. Right. Like, unless you're upsetting me or you're doing something like irresponsible or you're being a little terrorist. Like, this is your house. Right. You know, you don't have to, you know, go and put on a suit and tie or whatever because you have people coming over. No, I'm not like that. I think people, especially my children, how I'm raising them, like, you have to find out who you are. So freedom of expression is super big in my house. Like, you need to be able to communicate. So, like, every night, like, when we sit down, we speak our minds. Like, don't hold back. Like, your emotions, like, your thoughts, your feelings, like, let's hear it. Like, I can be your mother and I can be your friend. You tell me which one you need, and I can be that for you. Right. And so it's really big in my house, and I think it's super important. And the only way that I'm able to navigate that is just by going off of what I wish I could have had. So that's just how, like, I kind of base all of, like, my parenting and the way, like, I kind of navigate my own life. Is like, okay, like, I wanted this, I needed this, so let me try to implement this. And if it doesn't work, then, you know, I'll go back to the drawing table and I'll start over and do something else. I mean, we don't have handbooks as parents. Or, you know, when we go through traumatic experiences, I mean, the doctors might say that they do, but we really don't, because every person is so unique and individualized.
Oh, absolutely. Well, I think that you definitely hit the nail on the head there too, right? You're talking about parenting, you're also talking about relating to other people, you know, in a given situation, a given circumstance, right? I find it, you know, like, I don't know if it's like ironic, funny, or whatever it is, right? It's just interesting. Where, like, you'll have somebody that goes through a very traumatic experience, right? And you fill in the blank on the situation, right? But if they, you know, are in a similar position again, right, where they feel like this other person they're interacting with could be going through something similar, right? They will, you know, I've seen it myself and other people too, where, like, they'll change their behavior to reassure the other person, right? So, for example, like, if you're, you know, let's say, I don't know, like, fill in the blank, right? Like, someone, if you're, like, in a prior relationship where you're arguing all the time, right? And it's always a screaming match, right? when someone, you know, if you're talking to somebody again and they're upset, like you're going to, you know, maybe reassure them and sometimes take a knee, you know, in the argument if it's not really that important, right?
Exactly.
Because you want to, you know, you've been through like that, you felt that what a person's felt before, right? And you want to give them like the grace that you never got in that same situation, right?
I did that after my marriage. Like, I've learned that, you know, I'm not gonna win every argument.
Right.
You know, even like if I know without a shadow of a doubt that I'm right, like you know what, you're right.
Right.
I'm wrong, you're right.
Mhm.
This isn't worth it.
Right.
You know, and if we're both really heated in the moment, like, you know what, I'm gonna take a minute.
Right.
I'm just gonna walk away.
Right.
Because if one of us doesn't walk away, things do get said in a heat of a moment, and a lot of people misconstrue things being said in the heat of a moment that's really what you meant, that's what you were really feeling. Well, yeah, that is what I was feeling in that moment.
Right.
Because my emotions were like all crazy.
Right.
But it's not really how I feel.
Right.
Like once I'm calmed down and thinking clearly.
Right, of course.
So instead of like putting doubts and all of like those bad thoughts in your partner's mind or your children's mind even,
Mhm.
because we know like when we're having a bad day and sometimes the kids are just going crazy, we can let loose on our kids, and that's not right. So we can really start putting bad things in the kids' heads when we say things. So it's always nice just to sit back and learn to have, you know, a little grace and say, "No, you're right," and I'm just gonna walk away for a minute. I'm gonna go to my room and close the door. I'm gonna put on some music, or I'm gonna read a book or something. I'm gonna take a time out.
Right. Yeah, no, absolutely. So there's one thing I wanted to ask you about too, when it comes to, you know, you mentioned you like touched on this as you were going through your story, finding out like who you were, right? If you don't mind me asking, how old were you when you had your first child?
15, pregnant, 16, and married when I had.
That's really young.
That's really
That's
young.
really young.
That's really young.
And then married at how old?
16.
Wow.
Yeah.
Okay, so yeah, so from 16 until like after college, essentially, right? From the
Mhm.
story that we were talking about earlier,
Yeah.
you were in survival mode for probably the better part of 10 years, right?
Oh, even more than that, 'cause my health has not been like good for generally like most of like my life. But it's actually getting better like right now. But actually tomorrow would be my 19-year anniversary if I would have stayed married.
Wow.
Yeah.
My goodness.
Yeah.
So
Can
that's,
you imagine that?
yeah, that is
Mhm.
insane. So as you're going through this, right, like I feel like there's moments of people's lives, right, where they're faced with that option of the fight, flight, or freeze, right?
Mhm.
And obviously for you, it's been a prolonged experience, right?
Absolutely.
Probably more so than other people.
Mhm.
There's been times in my life, obviously more recently, where, you know, this year has been more of like one of those fight or flight kind of experiences, right? And now
Yeah.
we're on the tail end of that, thankfully. But it's like, we were talking about this before we jumped on, I'm like, I'm exhausted right now. And I had to run for about 10 months to almost a year, right? Of being in that position and, you know, making sure that I've had those boundaries built up where I needed to be. But for you, it was significantly longer, right? So how do you keep, you know, afloat, right? Like mentally, physically, spiritually, those types of things, right? But then also, as you're going through it, I feel like there's not a whole lot of time for reflection in the moment necessarily. So coming out of it, how do you know you're coming out of it? How do you look back and start to reflect on those things and start to process the experiences you've been through?
Oh, well, that's a lot because I'm actually thinking of a very specific friend right now. Like he had always, so almost every day, like I get messages from him. They're very uplifting messages because he knows like I go through it.
Right.
Like, and I don't know how to stop. I am a constant goer. Like I have to keep going. Like my kids are my ultimate motivation.
Right.
Like they're my ultimate driver. 3 hours of sleep, all right, bet, like I'm going.
Right.
It doesn't matter. And I'm less exhausted on 3 hours of sleep than getting 7-8 hours of sleep. It's
relatable.
It's so weird, and that's happened to me all week this week actually.
Nice.
But the reflection part, I used to journal a lot. But then something happened to where I stopped journaling because somebody found my journal and started using like my thoughts against me. So I stopped doing that, and then I kind of like went back into myself. And I feel like every time I'm sitting there and I'm just about to hit that precipice to where, all right, like, so I'm back out of survival mode, and now I'm just gonna coast, and I'm just gonna keep going. There's something that comes and knocks me back down.
Right.
And it really, really is all, like, I want to say it's all my own fault because I'm going to take responsibility for it regardless. I mean, there's so much more that I can do to stop it. But I don't, because I love my children.
Right.
And so I allow all these external factors to come into my life that keep me back and keep me down. And I just, like I said, like this year is the year that I want to say, just like even in the last 6 months, I've really tried to become more open to allowing other people to actually, like, to care about me.
Right.
You know, like, because I don't allow that. 'Cause the more emotions that get involved into things, it seems things can just get messier. So I've been trying, and it's actually been good, you know. And I have some great friends. Like, I've realized I really do have like some great friends, and they're always there for like me and my kids. Even like on a bad day, I can send out a text message or a phone call, and they're there. Even if they don't have time, they'll make 5 minutes for me.
Right.
And it's pretty amazing to see that. And even like after my accident and going through my treatments like 2 years ago, it was good. It brings like a lot of light into my life, like more clarity. And right now I'm actually going through like another phase to where I have things like clearer. Now it's just implementing, you know, these thoughts into action so that I can get through this and out of like this hole right now, so that I can get to my next phase.
Yeah, well, I think that, you know, like you said, so we're all trying to get out of the cycle that we're in and into the next thing, right?
Absolutely.
And it's admirable that even though you've been knocked down so many times, right? Just from the story that we were talking about and some other things that, you know, you brought up and we've had conversations about outside of this, you know, that you still haven't lost hope yet. Right?
No. I feel like as long as you're here, you're breathing, there's hope.
Oh, of course.
Like, you can't lose hope. I mean, I have 2 kids. Like, my job is to give them every opportunity available. It doesn't matter how hard I work. It doesn't matter how much money I make or even don't make. Like, as long as they have every opportunity at the end of the day to get out there and do whatever that they want to do to follow their dreams, I am succeeding.
Right.
There is hope in this world.
Oh, yeah.
And once, here's my thing. Once Nathaniel leaves me, that's my youngest, like, I have plans to go and do my own thing. You know, like, so I'm not even worried about it.
Yep.
You know, like, right now it's about my children. You know, it's not about me. I have kids. You know, and both my kids, they're really on me about this right now. Like, I need to make myself a priority. So I'm trying a little bit, you know, and that's where my friends come in. Like, I'm talking a little bit more, especially the past, like, month or two. Like, I'm being a little more open and available. But, no, it's my children,
Yeah.
and I make sure that they know how much they are loved and wanted,
Mhm.
and at the end of the day, that's all that matters to me. And work, everything else, they all come secondary.
That's awesome.
Mhm.
Well, I know we're right about that point here.
Yeah.
So, any closing thoughts? Anything that you'd like to share with everybody?
Really, just keep going. Not every day is gonna be a good day, but lean on somebody when you have a bad day. Find something that makes you happy, whether it be reading a book, lighting a candle, listening to some music, cleaning, cooking your favorite meal in the middle of the day, or going for a drive and listening to music. Like any little thing to get that bad feeling out, do it. Even if it means putting on that sad music and just crying, because then that goofiness comes out afterwards, and then you feel 1,000 times better. It helps. It really helps. And if anybody ever wants to chat or have questions, and just even if it's a one-on-one or a private message, just I'm here. I am pretty much an open book, so feel free to reach out.
Absolutely. They can find you on Facebook.
Facebook, Instagram. Do not Snapchat me. My number is all over the internet too. So yeah, and new chapter real estate. Like, so even if like I'm not in there, all the agents in there basically know me as well. So it should be pretty easy to get a hold of me.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
I love
Or
it.
even Jon. Jon has all my contact info.
Absolutely. You can hit me up. I can get you the contact info.
Absolutely.
So. Awesome. Well, Jennifer, thank you so much for joining us today. I really
Thank you for
appreciate it.
having me.
And we'll have to have you on again soon.
Absolutely. That's kind of nerve-wracking.
Oh, yeah.
I'm like, oh, I'm gonna lose my words.
No, you were perfect. You were totally fine. And it should all be saved. For today. Beautiful. Cool. I'm going to turn this off here.